Cheers, y'all.
Well.
That sounds like a party about to happen.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza, known internationally
Hi, Mom.
as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Welcome, my friends, to show number 279. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. My name is
Those are
Cruze.
all good things.
My erstwhile co-host, and friend is Mr. Ian Barry. Welcome, sir.
Man, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you. This little Thursday thing we got going is kind of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, we should maybe keep this up.
After 279 different times, it's going all right. Want to say hi to Doug, who is our incoming engineer, who is on the wheels of steel today while Adam watches plaintively over his shoulder. Adam, of course, as we've mentioned, is going to be leaving us before too long, and so Doug will be trying to fill his shoes behind the board. So it's nice to have all of you here as we take a look at show number 279. Today we will talk about a very interesting question, or I find it interesting anyway. Is there a reckoning coming for craft beer?
A reckoning.
A reckoning. That's a powerful
That's a big word,
Yeah,
yes.
it is. And what exactly is a reckoning? It's like a correction, a day of paying your dues, perhaps.
Right.
So, very interesting article we will delve into a little bit and see what the experts and the prognosticators are predicting. So, in the most basic terms, obviously, craft beer had a bit of a reckoning during the lockdown days of the pandemic when on-premise sales basically disappeared, and people tried to rally and do things to support their favorite breweries and go pick stuff up on drive-by beer runs at the breweries, and it was helpful, but obviously very difficult to replace that revenue.
We lost a lot
from
of
the bars,
a lot of breweries and a lot of bars.
We
over
did
that time.
a lot of breweries, a lot of bars, and some restaurants. And so now that people are going back out again, and things have gotten somewhat back to normal in terms of the flow of people and going out and doing things, certainly there has been a bit of a comeback. But it is not back to pre-pandemic levels just yet, and so I think that's where this article is coming from about the reckoning for craft beer. Also, of course, what happened during that time is the hard seltzer surge
explosion,
and that has taken some drinkers away from craft beer, and quite frankly, spirits have grown at such a huge rate that there's a lot of speculation that some people that were maybe more into craft beer a few years ago have kind of switched up and are into spirits.
Well, a lot of people, I think, found themselves with a little extra time to mix
drink.
their own drinks and drink. Yeah,
no kidding.
And try different things. I know a lot of people took, hey, I'm at home, so I might as well sit down and figure out, what is it about this whiskey I like? And I think we have a lot more whiskey aficionados and spirit aficionados nowadays than we had before.
Did you learn any new mixed drinks? How to make them during the pandemic? Because we had time.
So a lot of times I will start off with a whiskey, and I'll pour it into a glass.
Right.
And occasionally I put a piece of ice in it.
And that would be a cocktail.
Yes, that's a cocktail.
But you were doing that before the pandemic. I was just wondering if you'd gotten into anything
I'm
new.
super spoiled, okay? So my wife, and this is pre-pandemic, pandemic, post-pandemic, post-pandemic.
Yeah, before, during, and after.
Pseudo-pandemic, whatever you want, neo-pandemic.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, whatever it is.
Wherever the hell we are now.
I don't know what we're doing anymore.
I don't know. Is it an endemic yet?
But
and then I think it eventually just becomes a demic.
A demic, yes.
So I don't know what any of that means.
So no, I got spoiled because my wife, she just gets sometimes a wild hair and goes, you know what, I'm going to go buy this and this and this and make this drink. And I get to try new drinks all the time anyway.
Because she's in there making them.
And then sometimes if we have someone on the show that leaves a sample with us, I'll bring that home and she goes, oh, now we're going to have this tonight, and we'll mix something up. So I never know.
Well, my wife does the cooking at my house, but I am in charge of cocktails and libations. So if there's anything new to be tried, it would be. And I did experiment and made a fairly decent mojito for the first time during the pandemic. But the thing about mojitos, as much as I love them, it's like That's
Too
not
many
something you're going to
steps.
drink a whole bunch of.
Oh, yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Because of the
Little
sweetness
rich,
of
yeah.
it. Like it's awesome for the first one, but then you almost want to go. Yeah, I'm just going to go straight rum now. So anyway, that's and I really want to learn. And I'm frustrated because I've lost. I think he sent me the ingredients and the directions, but I've lost the information that Sean Anger from Fox and Seeker sent about that incredible gin cocktail.
Oh man,
he
I
made
bet we
when he
could
was
reach
here.
out to him and he'd
I
probably
may
resend
have
that.
to do
Is
that.
is it on the website by any chance?
I don't think so, but I should go look again and see.
we should check that out.
Because that was good. I don't even remember the name of it now, but maybe I'd recognize it if I saw the ingredients.
Yeah, we've been beating up the Fox and Seeker gin and the aged gin as well.
Yeah,
at the
that
house.
gin is
It's
awfully good.
Really
man.
good.
Honestly, I'm going to tell you, it's my favorite gin I think that I've ever had.
Yeah, that. So I have, depending on what kind of gin I want, I have a few favorites that are definitely go to. If I want something classic, I really appreciate the Hendrix.
Yeah, that's good.
That's when I really want a classic gin. But I like the Fox and Seeker has become my favorite. The Citadel is also quite good. And then I love the aged gins. I love doing a martini. And the thing about the aged gins is you don't dirty them up like you do a regular martini. You don't add a lot to them because they already have so much going on.
You kind of just pour them nice and cold.
Yeah, so that type of martini just becomes, what we know as a big ass shot.
Speaking of things that a big ass cold shot. Speaking of things that we love, I wanted to just give a little shout out. I went over on Tuesday to Tacos and Trivia Night at True Anomaly Brewing over in the
nice.
East End of
Yeah,
Houston.
you sent me a picture
Yeah,
from
I sent
there.
you a picture from some and let me tell you, obviously their beer, I'm a big fan. We've had them on the show a couple of times. That Scout Mexican lager is fantastic. My wife was loving that, and I was enjoying. I think the Rocket Man, I think is what it's called, the Pale Ale, the Citra Pale Ale. But they also had just a little table with these two ladies making tacos. And oh my God!
Oh, how good was that?
They were just incredible. It was one of those things where I got a thing of three for me, a thing of three for my wife, and ate those three, and I was like, I gotta have more. Yeah. So we split another one. Anyway, it was great. We had a good time.
That's a fun place to hang out too, because
those guys.
there's a great pizza place right next to it as well. So if you order pizza from there, they'll just bring it to you.
Yeah, which is also very awesome. Yeah. But don't sleep on the tacos. They were wonderful. If you're there and they got those tacos,
True anomaly. So the Scout Mexican Lager, I bought a keg of that for my sister's wedding.
Oh, nice.
That was just a couple weeks back, and that's where I was when Alan was doing the show with you.
Right.
And I bought a keg of that. I bought a keg of the Springbok from St. Arnold's, and they both floated right at the end of the reception.
Yay,
it was
floating
perfect.
kegs.
Like
love it.
right on.
Absolutely love it. I want to say thanks to our special guest from last week, David Schroeder with Guinness, his first time on the program, and he brought some very, very tasty stouts, and we enjoyed all of them, and he was a great guest. So thank you, David, for being on the program. We originally had scheduled to have our wine expert Mark Burrell on. Things are crazy busy for him right now at the Rainbow Lodge, so we have rescheduled him again just to give him a chance
Rainbow
to get
Lodge
out
is so good.
from under there. I think now we've targeted a day that he will have off. So
We have a gin cocktail from Wiki Brian on the comments here. He says, best gin cocktail, grab a rocks glass, grab your gin, open the gin, pour the gin down the drain, fill rocks glass with your favorite bourbon, and enjoy. Obviously not a gin fan.
Well, I wasn't a very big gin fan at all until I discovered some that I liked a little better. But to me, if it's too juniper-ish, that's just not a flavor that I really enjoy that much. But what I love about the Fox and Seeker is it doesn't have as much of the juniper. It's got all kinds of.
It's unique.
It's got all kinds of floral things going on, but it's not as much of a juniper-ish thing. But I understand where you're coming from on that. That's an interesting thing. On the program today, we're going to taste some interesting beers from our good friends out in Humble, Texas, at Ingenious Brewing. We're going to try their Soda Shop Root Beer. Now, it's not a it is an alcoholic beverage. And it's not like a root beer seltzer or something like that. It's an actual beer, but it is a cream ale that has root beer flavoring. So I've never tried this. I'm
That's
very,
gotta be
very,
interesting.
very curious because those guys, I mean, they're nuts out there.
Everything they do
Ingenious.
is so super normal.
Yeah, exactly.
But no,
so,
they don't. They
so
don't do
traditional,
anything normal.
so traditional and boring. Those guys. So looking forward to that, and also reaching out to those guys to try to get them back on the show because it's been a while.
Yeah, they're
It has
so
been a
good.
while. And they always have new stuff. They have new stuff like every week.
Yeah, weekly.
So,
Absolutely.
So it's awesome. From New Belgium Brewing in Fort Collins, Colorado, we'll be trying their Citrus Rescue IPA, and it's an interesting concept for the for this particular IPA because the citrus fruits that they use are the ones. Have you ever seen that where they advertise that it's not called ugly vegetables, but you know what I'm talking about?
Imperfect produce.
Imperfect
we actually
produce,
get
yeah.
imperfect produce
Yeah,
boxes
yeah.
every couple weeks or something.
And it's great. So they're doing the same thing with fruit, ones
Nice.
that are maybe not quite as pretty as the others, but still have a lot of fruity goodness. So we'll be interested to try that and see what it's like. And then finally, you know, one of the things I love about craft beer and craft brewers in general is that they're very creative when they name their beers. And I will fully admit that there are beers we've had on the show and will continue to have on the show that were chosen just because of their name.
Solely because of the name. Or
Solely
the
because of the
packaging, you
name.
know?
Yeah, or the packaging, right. From DuClaw Brewing in Baltimore, Maryland.
All right, stop there. It's going to be good.
Yeah,
it's DuClaw.
that is a very
Yes,
good brewery,
yes.
yes. Well, we'll be trying their chocolate peanut butter porter. That's called Sweet Baby Jesus. I had to. It was right there. I was like, I got to buy this. I have to buy this. You can't not support the Sweet Baby Jesus. You know?
Peanut butter chocolate porter.
Yeah.
I mean, I like those things.
Does not sound like a bad idea, does it?
It's like a Reese's porter?
Kind of. Well, we'll be trying a
Getting in a lawsuit there.
We'll be trying a root beer flavored thing and a peanut butter flavored thing today, so that should be interesting. And then, of course, we'll try a spirit from Mexico, as we always do when we have tequila. The Lote Maestro Tequila Anejo, which is spinning currently on Mr. Twirligig and looking very, I don't know, almost like something from QVC or the Home Shopping Network. It's purty. So we'll be trying some of that as well. Plus, a lot to talk about in addition to the craft beer reckoning that we mentioned earlier. Some things in the news that are fairly interesting. There's a new Andalusian Bull cigar coming out, but you can't buy it in any of your favorite cigar stores. It's
good.
only available through NFTs, which means now I'm going to have to figure out what the heck NFTs actually
what is an
are,
NFT?
and how do you use them to get a hold of this new Andalusian Bull. We'll also take you through a list of this year's top producing craft breweries. These are the breweries that produce
Putting out the most amount,
beer. Yeah, exactly. And you'll recognize some familiar ones on there. And congratulations, by the way, to Spirit Hound. We've had Spirit Hound whiskey. They took home Whiskey of the Year at the recent London Whiskey Festival. So that's a pretty big deal. And those guys,
Good job, guys.
we had them on the show. It couldn't have been more down to earth.
I still wear my
humble.
Spirit Hound cap.
Oh, you have a cap? That's great.
you gave me
That's
a cap.
great. So all of that is coming up. We might even get into 8 new single malt scotches to try right now if we have time today on the program. And we will do drinking news, of course. Our drinking news teaser headline for today would be, oh, what's that? You got a tight cable there on
Yeah,
your
good
headphones,
luck with that.
Drinking news teaser headline would be A Terrible Way to Die. We're going to have a more serious drinking news today. Yeah, because it's hard to laugh about serious matters such as death.
Yes.
So
There's nothing funny about that.
We'll do our best not to laugh. Good luck to us. So lots of great things coming on the program today. It's finally getting to be nice weather, although it's been a little windy, which
windy.
has made outdoor cigar smoking a bit tough because everything burns so hot when you do that. So when I smoked my cigar for the show this week, I actually put the top down on the car, but pulled into a garage. So that's how I did it. I had the blockage, from the sides of the garage, and it was.
I was going to say it's got to be
nice.
really windy on your balcony.
Yeah, it is. There haven't been a lot of balcony smoking this last week, but I'm hoping that this dies down. The old saying is that March supposedly comes in like a lion and out like a lamb. Well, it's well into April, Mother Nature. and it's still blowing like crazy
To
out
say
there.
that Texas seasons are a little late,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't show up at all.
Sometimes they show up and just stay.
Right? Sometimes.
Yeah, that happens too. So what about you? Did you have a chance to smoke anything interesting this
I
week?
did. I went by the Casa this morning and was perusing their selection there and found something that just looks super interesting.
Yeah.
Apparently it's really new. And I thought I'd try it. It was the Partagas.
Partagas? That's the way I say it.
I
Partagas.
put the emphasis on the wrong syllable there. The Partagas Anejo Esplendido.
Ah.
This is a 4.5 inch by 60 Figurado.
So,
which is
interesting.
a cool looking little cigar.
I bet.
Man.
Yeah, I got to see the pictures on that. That's
It's
great.
a super cool looking little cigar. It's a barbershop pole. So you don't see those Partagas. I don't think I've ever seen one from them before. I've seen them from a few other
like the Filthy Hooligan.
yeah,
and some of the. Yep.
I've seen them, but I've never seen one from Partagas. So
Partagas is one of those.
I
Like,
wouldn't be surprised
heritage.
if this is one of their first ones. You know?
And it's one of their heritage brands
The
too.
wrapper on this, it's the Anejo because it's using aged wrappers. So the wrapper was two different aged wrappers. It's a 1998 Cameroon and a 2013 Connecticut Shade, and that's what they
interesting.
use for the barber's pole. It's super pretty.
Yeah.
The binder is Dominican, the filler is Mexican and Dominican. The appearance on this beautiful barbershop pole with ruddy brown Cameroon wrapper, lighter Connecticut opposing that, offsetting the color on that, mostly smooth overall with a few little soft spots in it. The pre-light sniff on this, earth, barnyard, fermented hay, and a little bit of mocha on it, especially at the foot of the cigar. The pre-light draw, I used a clip on it, had a light draw to it, spicy chocolate, sweet cream, tea leaf, citrus fruit are flavors that I was picking up out of it. I lit this up. Big, toasty, spicy, tangy earthiness is what I put down. Apparently it was doing a lot all at once.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing.
Big, toasty, spicy, tangy earthiness with white pepper and underlying wood notes right off the bat. The retrohale was very cedar and earthy. The first third of this, massive smoke. I mean, the smoke out of this was just big, fluffy, ridiculous smoke. I absolutely love that. Wood, rich earth and leather coming out, sweet, creamy chocolate and toast right behind it. White pepper and tea leaf in the background. Hints of citrus and pleasant wood left on the lips. It was really, really nice. Kind of leaves you with that, little lip smacking kind of, tasting your lips after you take a puff.
Yep.
The retrohale was earth and wood with a kiss of pepper. Solid ash, perfect burn. The second third of this, massive smoke.
Yeah.
Like the smoke out of this thing
From
was
this
just,
little bitty cigar.
yeah, it was just the smoke was
kinda
just
cool.
huge. The ash still hanging on at this point, right? Nutty.
How far into it are you?
This was the second third of the cigar,
Nice,
so
nice.
I've got a full third of the ash hanging on here.
But on a shorter cigar, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The nutty and earthy, nutty and toasty notes appear, complementing the underlying sweetness. Wood notes are somewhat between oak and cedar. Leather and earth take turns around the palate. Chocolate lurks in the background along with white pepper. The ash finally fell right before the last third of this. Retrohale at this point is nutty and chocolate, backed by cedar. Solid ash, great burn. The last third of this, massive smoke. Did I mention that?
You did, yes, but still.
It's so good. I just love that. Like that big mouthful of smoke every puff. Tangy leather and cedar move forward. Fermented hay, damp grass are a little more present. Beautiful complexity in this masterfully crafted offering from Partagas. Toasty notes ramp up towards the end, along with a little sneaky mintiness coming around in there. Right at the very end of this, the retrohale is toasty and sweet nuttiness with chocolate and white pepper. I really enjoyed this cigar. It is, however, for a small cigar,
Pricey.
it's a little pricey. It's $9.80, so almost
small
$10
cigar,
cigar
yeah.
for a 4-inch by 4.5 inches by 60 Figurado. It smoked substantially longer than I thought it was going to.
So that's a good thing for a small cigar that's a little pricey.
I thought I was going to get 40 minutes out of this thing. It lasted an hour easy.
So that's not too bad then.
Yeah, big time. Like I that added to the value, if you ask
For
me.
sure.
The flavor never got harsh, even when it was burning my fingers. At $9.80, I give this a 6. This was a fantastic cigar.
Wow, that's impressive.
Absolutely enjoyed it, and I highly recommend, if you see one, get one. This is a medium strength cigar,
Yeah.
but even if you're more inclined towards the milder side, this cigar is medium strength, but it's not pepper biting or anything like that. So if you're looking to maybe step up into something a little stronger and try something with a little bit bigger flavors overall, this would be a great one to walk into, because it's not a super spicy cigar. It's got that white pepper kind of in the background, but not so spicy as to turn off someone, I think, that likes a milder cigar.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. So sometimes, especially if you're someone who smokes milder cigars, sometimes you do want to stretch out a little bit, because milder cigars have a tendency to have, in my experience, very similar flavor profiles. So sometimes you're looking for just a little bit of a change up in flavor, but you don't want to go out and smoke a Bone Crusher or a Diesel or something like that.
Right. Well, so, and to back up what you're saying, also very strong cigars, you know, on the very high end of the strength, like the chisels and things like that, tend to also have similar profiles.
Right, that's 100% right. The La Gloria Cubana, what is the
chisel and the Serie R and
the Serie R is what I was thinking
those
of.
guys.
Yeah.
And so and some of the diesels and things like that are just pretty big, and they're great, and they can be chocolatey but also very peppery, or they can be peppery and not chocolatey, but very coffee and peppery, you know. But the medium range of cigars, when you start
seems
getting
to
into
be
that,
where you get the most
that's
nuance.
where you get a lot of the complexity, I think.
I would
in
agree with that,
cigars.
and that's why my absolute favorites have a tendency to be medium to medium full.
Yeah,
because that's where
I live in that kind of area.
That's where
myself.
I found the best thing.
How about you?
Well, I smoked something I had not ever smoked before today. I smoked the H. Upmann Hispaniola, which is by Jose Mendez. I smoked the Bellicoso, which is the torpedo-shaped cigar. And this was an addition to the H. Upmann line released back in 2019. You know, H. Upmann first did cigars with A.J. Fernandez, and that was a big hit for them. And so they then reached out to other tobacconists and blenders. And I will say that Jose Mendez is more known as a tobacco grower than a blender.
Right.
But he's known for growing some of the finest tobacco in the Dominican Republic region. So Altadis USA reached out to him, and he stepped up to the plate with some serious leafage for sure in this cigar. The blend uses rich tobacco from several regions in the Dominican Republic, adding to it some Nicaraguan tobacco in the filler. The binder is Dominican, and then it's draped in a really nice kind of red-brown tinted Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper that's really, really pretty. Barnyard, wet hay, and tea leaf were on the pre-light sniff. The cold draw was earthy with rich tobacco notes. I got that after I clipped the top to kind of test the cold draw, and the airflow seemed perfect, so I lit the Hispaniola with my torch, and we were off to the races. Great complexity from the very first few puffs, which was awesome. Sometimes in a lot of the cigars I smoke, you got to give them a half an inch or so to settle down before you start getting the complexity. This was there right away, which I was really pleased with. I got toasted almonds, dry wood, and there was a very distinct black pepper on the finish. And when I say black pepper, you know the flavor of the peppercorns that they put on top of the steak at steakhouses sometimes? It was that exact note was what I was getting.
Nice.
And so it wasn't as much like black pepper from the shaker,
right,
but more like that black peppercorn. About an inch in, a really awesome creaminess kind of appeared and started to weave itself around the flavors, which by now included a nice note of baking spice as well. I have to mention that the Hispaniola burned almost razor straight from the very beginning. I tipped the ash off at just over an inch because I was a little afraid to press my luck, quite honestly. But I think it could very, very well have held on to the halfway point. Second, third, added a bit of tangy sweetness on the tongue and hints of leather. Nice balance and complexity continued as this thing smoked. The pepper ramped up a little bit in the final third with a hint of green tea and maybe even a little bit of citrus. I'm thinking that little tang I was getting on the tongue was kind of a citrusy citrusy
note,
tang. The burn did not stay completely straight the whole way, but it was well behaved. It never needed tending. In fact, I didn't even pick the lighter back up once I started smoking this. So while the pepper notes were always present, the Hispaniola was not a full-on pepper bomb like a lot of the cigars that I have a tendency to smoke. It was a little more subtle. Very nice balance all the way through, and a solid medium, I would say, in strength.
That's a pretty cigar.
I really, really enjoyed the Esplendido, and I will definitely smoke it again. It's about a $9 cigar, and I would say very well worth it. Price to quality, I'd say a solid 5.
Nice.
And that is not in any way just because it doesn't get over the 5. I mean, it is a $9 cigar, so for it to be worth it at $9,
It's got to be real good.
it's got to be really good. And I was very impressed. So a lot of times, if you go for the more traditional smokes in the H. Upmann line, you get a much milder cigar, although they have branched out a little bit, and they've got the Nicaragua and the different things. Obviously, the AJ stuff is a little more bold and flavorful. This was very different, though. It was somewhere in between the two in terms of strength, but it was definitely a nice complex mix of flavors, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So recommended. And it also comes, I think, in a Toro and a Robusto. I was in the mood for a Torpedo, so I went with the Bellicoso shape.
There you go.
So it's very nice. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and begin the tasting portion of the program, which I'm going to be honest is my favorite portion. So we'll be back and try some of this Soda Shop Root Beer Cream Ale from our friends at Ingenious Brewing in Humble. That's up next. Plus, we'll tell you about Spirit Hound's big award coming up. Welcome back, my friends. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. This program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Those are very good things.
Those are all good
Those
things.
are all very good things. Our Smokin' and Toastin' Person of the Week. We're going to give a big shout-out and salute to Laura Sturgeon. Laura is a state senator in Delaware, and back in 2021, she introduced a bill to cut state taxes on premium cigars in the state of Delaware.
Yay.
That bill has, to show you how slowly things move, that bill has now cleared its committee, and now we'll go on to another committee, and if it clears that committee, it will go to the assembly floor and be voted on. But the idea that Laura had, God bless her, is to take the 30% of the wholesale price tax on premium cigars in Delaware and slash that to 15%. So big salute.
I like where her head is at.
And it passed, by the way, 10-2 with one abstention. So I'd say it has some momentum going into the next couple of rounds here. So, government always moves so lightning fast. That will poor people in Delaware will still be paying taxes for a while, even if this thing goes all the way. But anyway, to our friends in Delaware, which, by the way, Delaware has I lived in Massachusetts for a while, and sometimes would drive south, like towards Connecticut or New York, and so you'd pass through Rhode Island, the smallest state in the Union, right? And it would take, it'd take you just a little while to pass through Rhode Island. Then I lived in Pennsylvania, and driving to Maryland from Pennsylvania, you pass through Delaware, and it takes like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
So Delaware's a little bigger, but you wouldn't know it driving through it. It's a pretty interesting state, though. They've got a lot of interesting things going on in Delaware. So and a 30% tax on cigars, which hopefully soon will be 15%. We've got our fingers crossed for you, Delaware. Hang in there. All right, it's time. That was very well done. You've gotten pretty good at this in 279 shows.
You wouldn't know this, but when I'm at home, a lot of times I set up a microphone and just crack my beer cans into it just to make sure.
That's very interesting. I love your dedication to the craft.
And because I'm dedicated to making sure that that the cans are cracked properly, I have to then consume the beverage out of it because I don't want waste.
Right. No, that would never be a good thing. We don't want any good craft beer to go to waste. There may be a reckoning coming, and if you've been wasting it, it could show up left behind. It could show up as a thing, That's one thing we want to be very, very careful about. We advocate for a lot of things here at Smokin' and Toastin', and not wasting good beer is one of them. So, Ingenious Brewing, in our friends out in Humble, who have been on the show a number of times. They've been at the Houston Whiskey Social.
Oh yeah,
several times with some. I think of them as primarily like an IPA brewery because they do such creative IPAs, but their stouts and porters.
I think of them as not an IPA brewery. I mean, they do a lot of IPAs, but I think of them as like if you want beer with ridiculous flavors.
Yeah, ridiculous.
They do ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Yeah, they do it, and they do it well.
Yes.
And so that's what has me very curious about this. I will admit, if this
Smell like sarsaparilla.
soda shop root beer were a cream ale, it says blended with root beer and vanilla beans. If this were from a different brewery, my expectations would probably be a little lower. No, I'm serious, because these guys just do ridiculous, and they do it well. So let's see if it lives up to it. Boy, I can get the vanilla notes on the nose.
I'm super curious to see what you think. I'm not a huge fan of root beer. Like I think root beer in general is a little too sweet.
I would agree with you. I liked it more as a little kid. I like it a little less as an adult.
Yeah. I mean, it's the flavor itself is nice. I remember the little hard root beer candies were kind of fun too. This is like the kind of root beer I want.
Well, you know what it reminds me of? Like it ticked back a memory that I don't think I've thought about in years. When I was a little kid, my parents would sometimes take me to the A&W, which was like a burger place with root beer. And if I remember correctly, it was kind of like a Sonic where you go up to you pull up your car up into the parking lot and there's a little, intercom thing that you order and they bring it out to you. But A&W always used to put, if you got a root beer as your soda, they would put these little plastic animals like giraffes or horses or something, and they would put them right on the top rim of your cup, and then as a kid, you get to take that home.
And A&Ws are still around, but the only time you see them now is when they're parasitically attached to a Long John Silver's, which is a little weird to me.
I think it's just the same company. But
Yeah.
yes. So, and by the way, Long John Silver's. Say what you want, but that is one of the greatest ways to poison yourself in the world.
Man,
it's just the crunchy stuff they put on their fish. It's got to be the single worst thing in the universe for you. But boy, is it delicious!
But it makes such a great tartar sauce delivery system, and that's really what it's about.
What it's
Let's
all
just
about.
go ahead and point
but
that
this tastes 100% like a root beer.
It does, and then like on the finish, you get a little bit of beer.
Yes,
and then the lingering little bit of vanilla that smooths everything out
totally right.
is completely delightful.
So this is really good.
Got a straw?
It does seem like you could drink this with a straw, doesn't it? Wow, I would never have thought. Now, they have done these soda shop cream ales. They've done different soda shop iterations before.
Is so bizarrely
So they've done
good.
like a cream soda iteration, and I think they've done. I don't know if they've done a cola. That would be very interesting. But the root beer is just spot on.
Nostalgia in a glass. This shop beer will remind you of an afternoon with your loved ones on the Strand or Washington Avenue, keeping the days of old alive.
Those are Houston and Galveston references for those from other parts of the country. But yes. That's good. It does have that soda shop vibe about it, doesn't
This
it?
is so bizarrely good.
If
5.2%.
I may interject for a minute, it needs to be in a frosty mug.
I think you're right.
Just
I think
like an A&W root
a
beer.
frosty mug would probably be a step. Yeah, I like it.
With a dollop of ice cream.
Oh, now you're talking. In fact, I think you can actually make. So when I was putting the notes together for the show, I went online, and I think I clicked on the Untapped page for this, and there were several people that reported drinking it. One of them said that they found it too sweet, which I understand.
They have that picture on the front that has the classic root beer float.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is one of the other people who had commented they were drinking it were about to make a root beer float with it, and they were going to get ice cream. So, so it probably would work.
It is bizarrely good.
Boozy root beer float. I like it. I don't know if I could drink a lot of it, but boy, one frosty mug.
I could do. This is a 16-ounce can. I could definitely kill a 16-ounce can. I don't know if I'd reach for a second one immediately.
Yeah.
But this is one of those fun things that you have a few in your fridge, and you go, "Oh, you want to try something interesting?"
You know what else I will say about it before we move on is that the carbonation is strangely like the carbonation of an actual root beer.
Oh.
most beer carbonation, the bubbles feel a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
These bubbles on your tongue feel bigger, like a soda, like a root beer. Yeah, I'm pretty amazed by it, I have to say, and I probably shouldn't be because the track record of Ingenious is quite good.
Yeah, they're so good. And I love going to the brewery. It's not the prettiest brewery. It's got a cool room that you walk into and then a nice little outdoor area, but it's basically in a business park, as are a lot of breweries, by the way. But it's nice because you can sit outside at the far corner and you can try all their absolute ridiculous 10+% barrel aged. Well, let's just say I don't usually drive home.
That's probably a good thing, and I'm glad you're careful. Spirit Hound Distillers, who are based in Colorado, recently won the prestigious honor of Whiskey of the Year at the International London Spirits Competition and I still have some of this at home, and I'm going to go back and drink some of it tonight just in celebration, for their straight malt whiskey. What was that one about?
Straight malt whiskey.
Oh, good. Okay.
I don't know.
If you say so.
I'm just making these things up.
They took home the only U.S. gold medal, receiving the highest quality rating of any U.S.-based spirit in the competition. And interestingly, I was reading an article about this, which is where I first found out. And Craig Engelhorn, who is the founder of Spirit Hound and the head distiller, when he got the email from London regarding the victory, he thought it was spam. Which, that does happen, right?
Congratulations, you just won.
Yeah, and now put $50,000 in an account, and the prince of some Middle Eastern country you've never heard of will be able to get out of the country and come to you and give you your millions.
I got a text the other day that was like, "Hi, my name is so and so. As you know, I just won $250 million on the lottery, and I'm giving my money away. And click this link." And
do you want some?
And a whole bunch of bad
gobbledygook
in there. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I don't believe you.
Well, the award-winning whiskey is made with all Colorado ingredients and is distilled on equipment that the master distiller, Craig Engelhorn, built himself by hand. So this really is what you might call a micro distillery. And when they say it's handcrafted, it really and truly is. So that's kind of cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So, and we've had those guys on the show.
Yes.
I do love their whiskey.
Super fun.
It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's good.
Yeah, fantastic. So congratulations to them. That is a big, big honor, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm digging it. All right. Time to take a break once again while we enjoy a little more of this root beer. I almost called it root beer float. Root beer beer. These guys at Ingenious, they're just nuts in the greatest way possible.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get them back on the show. We're going to work on that. And when we return, we'll be sampling a New Belgium Citrus Rescue IPA. Plus, I want to get into this list that we have of the year's top producing craft breweries. That's all coming up on Smoking and Toasting.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. As I pour myself just a little more of this soda shop root beer.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
It's like I would never pick that out of a lineup and say I really want to try that, but it's really good.
It really is. It really is. Well, that's one of the great things about the show is we will try things like this. And now you might not have tried this either, but we recommend.
I think we've proven that our bar for what we'll try on this show is pretty low. Because we'll try
Malort.
We'll try
the Montucky Cold Snack. I would just mention, by the way, that I bought this can at Specs, and it was in the that little end of aisle thing where you can mix and match your beers.
Yeah,
so I didn't have to buy a 4-pack. Just to try it. And I would definitely say, I mean, it'd be worth a 4-pack. You're not going to drink them all the same day, but you could keep these in your beer fridge and enjoy whenever.
So the
once in a
fun
while.
thing about beers like this, beers from Ingenious, I think, like they're fun to sit down and enjoy. And you will find beers from Ingenious where you'll go, you know what, I'm definitely going to sit down and drink that. But a beer like this is something that I don't want to crack this open just by myself generally.
No,
I want to
wait till you got somebody over. Yeah.
When I got a friend over hey man, want to try some? So it's kind of a social, fun taster thing.
I would love to see what would happen if you took a can of this or a couple cans to your brew club meeting. Your
yeah.
Society of Smoking and Drinking. Yeah,
the Connoisseurs Club of Smoking and Drinking.
That would be interesting to see how it would go over with those guys.
I think that we'd have a very polarized audience there. Like some people. I don't think there's a whole lot of down the middle with this one.
Kind of like the gin thing we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Exactly. So I'll just mention that there's an interesting article.
Sorry.
Are you reading the
No,
can?
I just looked at the label.
That's
The label's amazing. It's got an orange with googly eyes.
Yeah, it's an orange with googly eyes because this is Citrus Rescue. So let's just jump into this. This is going to be.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
this is going to be. No, it's all right. I'm going to hang on to that because this is going to be interesting
It
enough.
just made me giggle.
Citrus Rescue, and you can read this off the can here in a bit, but this is where they take some of this less than purdy fruit.
It's got an ugly orange with some googly eyes on it, and they're placed perfectly.
And they take it and they use it as a part of what they brew. New Belgium, I would just say, these are the people that gave the world Fat Tire, and for that we owe them a debt of thanks. Because
if you ever find a place that has Fat Tire fresh on tap, there is almost nothing as good as. Like in style wise,
right,
as that beer fresh on tap.
So
the 1554 Enlightened Black Lager is fantastic.
These guys are based out of Colorado, and if you're ever in Colorado, or if that's where you happen to live, you can find plenty of places that have it on tap, and it's super fresh and it's wonderful. And even when I was out in Los Angeles, you found places that had Fat Tire on tap. And famously, I'm a big fan of the Michael Connolly Bosch books and the Bosch series that's on Amazon. And on the series and in the books, Bosch is a big fan of Fat Tire. So it's
nice.
It's just kind of a cool literary
Their
reference.
1554, I think, is one of classic for me. Like, I used to buy that.
And as an IPA guy, I will tell you their Voodoo Rangers series
Rangers,
is fantastic.
pretty classic,
Yeah. And they've got some of those Voodoo Rangers are serious IPAs, like serious in the way that Stone IPAs are serious. So,
have you smelled this?
Yes.
This smells like,
and I want to keep smelling it.
Tangerine and grapefruit and orange.
So here's what it says: India Pale Ale with orange juice, orange peel, and natural flavors. And it has the logo underneath the goofy-looking orange there of Imperfect Foods, brewed with perfectly good but imperfect-looking fruit, it says.
So me and my wife get the Imperfect Produce box every couple weeks, I think it is. And it's funny because you do get some ugly fruit, especially the carrots. The carrots are so funny looking.
They're really gnarly looking, huh?
Yeah, we've gotten some that were so big, they're like, how do you even get into this carrot?
I will say that in sort of a deference to my father, the folks at New Belgium were unable to resist a good pun on the side of the can where it says, "Orange, you glad this fruit didn't go to waste?" Yeah. So there, Dad, you'll appreciate that. Oh, I love this. Absolutely love it.
It's pretty good.
Of all of the citrusy IPAs that I've tasted, this one probably tastes the most like a glass of orange juice.
It's pretty orangey.
It is, and it's got that.
It's 6.5% alcohol too.
Yeah, so it's not.
It's a little bit bigger than you'd think. Yeah,
it's not messing around. So what's your take on this? Being the guy who's a little less inclined to IPAs than me,
I'm for it. This is unapologetically orange and IPA, and I think it goes well.
I gotta get
it
some more
leaves
of this.
this kind of wonderful tang aftertaste, and not tang in the chemically
the astronaut stuff,
fake kind of part of the tang, but in the orange, like when you first pour the tang powder in, you have that smell. That's the aftertaste.
Well,
at least
when you drink tang, as I remember from my youth, when you first drink it, that first taste when it first hits your palate is really good.
Right.
It's the finish that is
right. So
is kind of artificial.
This has
tasting.
that real good part of what tang tastes like as an aftertaste.
But I remember
it's really interesting.
I remember as a kid though thinking if it was good enough for the astronauts, it's good enough for me. Right?
Pretty sure that's why they sold it that way.
Pretty sure. At least it wasn't high C. Do you remember? We used to get high C when I was a kid. My mom would get those big cans, you know, that were like big round cans, and you had to like poke a hole in both sides of the top, and then you pour it out of the can. And I always remember high C had emblazoned on it proudly on the side of the can, contains 10% fruit juice.
10% fruit juice.
What the heck is the rest of the stuff in there? I don't even want to know.
Cheaper than fruit juice. That's what it is.
Yeah. But this is better than Tang or High C, for sure. I like this, and I will be stocking up on some of this. This is first of all, I love the idea of rescuing the gnarly fruits. And secondly, this is just a delicious beer. Okay, you're going for a little, extra. So that's when it's an IPA, that tells me something.
It's real good.
I dig it. All right, we're going to take another quick break. Oh, Doug will go for some seconds
Doug's
as well.
like, I'm in.
Doug's like, how did I land this sweet gig? All right, we will be back in just a moment. And drinking news is still on the way. Plus, I am going to get into this list of the highest producing craft breweries of the year. And it's a very interesting list. I think you'll like this. So stick around. It's Smoking and Toasting.
You know, people of a certain age
Yeah.
can only think of tequila in terms of Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah. And younger people think of it in terms of Dan and Shay. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I'm having fun on today's show. Sometimes it's fun when it's just the two of us and the producers.
We have a certain repertoire.
Is that what it is? I think repartee is the word you were looking for.
Yeah, it was
something reputation.
It's a lot of fun sometimes to just use the wrong word at the right time.
Reputation, reprehensible, reparations. I don't know.
Right.
Something in there will be appropriate. So the new list has come out, and it's actually a list of for 2021. I billed it as this year, but it was released this year, but based on the figures and the numbers for 2021 of the top 50 craft brewing companies. And now this is based purely on the amount of beer.
Straight numbers here.
That they produce, right? So number one, not surprisingly, is DG Yuengling & Son out of Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Yuengling is a huge brand, but they are still a craft brewer. They're still independent and independently owned. Number two will also not surprise you. It's Boston Beer, which is Sam Adams out of Boston. Those guys have got great reach there. You can find Sam Adams everywhere. In fact, I was thinking about this when I was at Specs this week because I was looking for a couple of things to buy. And by the way, you know what I found was that Deftones IPA that Belching Beaver put out.
Good.
And so I bought some of that. And you want to know something? In a 6-pack of the taller cans, it wasn't more expensive than a 6-pack of shorter cans of other things around. Yeah. So I don't know if that was mismarked. I don't want to say it too loud because I don't want Specs to go back and mark it up. Anyway, I definitely bought a 6-pack of that.
Nice.
And that's a wonderful beer. Anyway, but I was looking at the Sam Adams and I thought, I really should buy some Sam Adams sometimes. I don't want to take them for granted. They're a pioneer of craft beer.
They came out with great beer at a time when no one was doing it. They literally opened the doors for so many people to not only just try, like there just wasn't that much different beer in the United States at that point in time.
And they've more recently showed their commitment to continuing to blaze new trails in craft beer when they merged with Dogfish Head.
Yes.
Which is another great beer company.
Dogfish Head is so
fantastic. So Boston Beer is number 2. Number 3 is Sierra Nevada out of Chico, California. And they established themselves early, and they still, to this day, make great beers. I heard that. It was great.
I noticed that you cleared the top of this bottle so we didn't have any spillage and or plastic cuts.
Yeah, I wouldn't want you to cut yourself on the plastic from having to clear it around the top, and having the spillage danger lessened, I think, can be really important when it comes to spirits. So,
agreed.
All right. So while we pass this around, I'll give you a few more from the list. Number 4 was Duvel. which is it's actually Duvel Morgat USA, but you know the Duvel line of beers.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Gambrinus at number 5, and Gambrinus is important because that includes Shiner. Shiner beer is part of the Gambrinus brewing family. So they are pretty high on this list, which is pretty cool. Bell's Brewery out of Comstock, Michigan is number 6, and that's pretty good.
Yeah.
In terms of, I mean, those guys, well, we know that in the last couple of years, Bell's has really branched out in terms of being available everywhere. I have some of their, I think it's called Original Hazy IPA in my refrigerator right now.
I haven't tried that one.
Oh, it's good. I'll have to bring some on the show. I don't think we've tried it on the show. It's really good. Canarchy is number 7. That includes a number of different breweries out of Longmont, Tampa, Salt Lake City, Comstock, and Dallas. Artisanal Brewing Ventures out of Downingtown, Pennsylvania, which I believe is Victory, among others. At number 9, Stone Brewing out of Escondido, California. And then Sweetwater Brewing out of Atlanta finishes out the top 10. I'll mention a few others down the list here. I won't go over the whole list, but if you want to look at this yourself, go to brewersassociation.org, and you can see the full list of the 50, along with a nice little map of the U.S. that points out where a lot of these are. Couple of things that I wanted to point out though from the list. At number 21, Harpoon Brewery out of Boston, which is one of my all-time favorites because they were where I fell in love with IPAs. And I just absolutely appreciate them and all that they are about. Three Floyds out of Munster, Indiana is number 26 on the list. Alaskan Brewing Company out of Juneau, Alaska is number 31. And I'll just also mention Flying Dog out of Frederick, Maryland, number 35. And one of my absolute favorites here, at number 44, St. Arnold Brewing Company, Houston, Texas.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. So, it's a great list. Take a look at it. I won't go down all 50 of them, but it's definitely worth your time if you're a craft beer enthusiast to see who's producing the most beer. Again, it's not a statement of popularity or quality or regional dominance.
Right.
It's really just about
the
who brews
volume.
the biggest volume of craft beer in 2021.
Straight up numbers.
All right, Ian, we are about to try some tequila here that is, I think, going to be very interesting. This is, of course,
Lote
from Mexico.
Maestro?
Lote Maestro. It's a tequila. It's an Anejo, and it is, what's a beautiful bottle, by the way.
It is a gorgeous bottle.
It's the second brand we've seen that has that topper that has tequila in it, which I think is really interesting because I remember when we got to the end of the last bottle that was like that, it was really cool to know we had just a little more tequila
There's
left.
just one more
it was
bit left.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. So this, I'm going to tell you, is very different. I believe this was finished. Can you look on the back and tell me what cask this is finished in? Was it port or sherry?
Cognac.
Cognac cask. Okay. So you can definitely pick up on a little of that on the nose.
It's got
that sweeter, more
it's got
grapey
an earthy
variety.
vegetal kind of nose to it that's kind of interesting. It smells like tequila with a vegetal kind of.
I almost get so much of the cognac cask on the nose that I'm not really picking up a lot of agave.
I pick up the agave right off the bat, but I'm getting that cask. And look at the color of it; it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful color, and it's Wow, that's interesting.
That's so different
That
than
doesn't
anything
taste
I even
like
remotely
any
expected.
tequila I have ever had
It
before.
tastes like somebody spilled a little bit of tequila in the cognac.
It really does. And that's so interesting because it's finished in cognac barrels. But it almost, at least my first reaction to it is it almost tastes, as you were saying, more like a cognac than a tequila, which is not bad, although it's not what I was expecting.
It's like a peppery, cognac-y. It's very bizarre.
Cognac-y
It's
is
cognac-y.
that's a new word. I like that. Do you like it?
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. Like, I'm 2 sips in and I'm still like so confused by it.
It is a confusing tequila. It definitely tastes like a high-end spirit, I will say that. But I'm still getting more cognac than tequila out of this.
So the aftertaste is even confusing. Like it aftertastes tequila and then immediately morphs into like a warm cognac kind of thing.
First note is more agave on the aftertaste, and then and the finish, and then it just slowly gets kind of overridden by the cognac.
Did somebody put pepper in my cognac?
It strikes me that this is something that someone like Chris Hart, who really likes cognacs and Armagnacs, would really like. Like, this would be a tequila he would love.
I'll tell you what I like about it. I like the weird grapey earthness to it, okay? Mm-hmm. There's a grapey earthiness to it that is so alluring and so interesting, and it's followed by that peppery agave flavor, but it's so barrel forward up front.
And barrel forward's a great way to say it. It is definitely, it's the most...
It's a little too sweet, I think, almost. Like, the sweetness is distracting.
Which is more of the cognac vibe that is sweet like that. Right, because you're not used to tequila being sweet at all. This doesn't make me think... Usually when I taste a really good tequila, I think, wow, I would love to go to Original Ninfa's and just enjoy a really good plate of enchiladas or fajitas. And this doesn't send me... This doesn't taste Mexican.
I don't think this would go with fajitas very well at all.
I don't think Mexico when I drink this. I think France.
I think if you were going to have a cigar with this, you'd have to go Connecticut.
Something very light.
And mild, because this would, I think, just wreak havoc upon anything with a chocolatey flavor. Do we have any water? Do we have any,
maybe Adam can grab us some.
Adam, you rock. I want to try this with a little water.
Drop of water in it?
Super interested to see what happens, because I'm willing to bet this is going to open up into something completely different when we do that.
Well, that would be fascinating, because that's not something I think of doing with tequila.
Right, but this is so barrel forward that
with obviously with a good whiskey, yes, with even a rum.
You gonna try the same thing? I'm super interested just to see what happens. I wonder if the nose and everything's going to change.
Now I get pepper on the nose.
It smells more tequila-like now.
Now it reminds me, with a little bit of water, it reminds me a little more of a very pepper-forward tequila like a Hornitos.
I like this a lot better with a touch of water. It tends to cut some of the sweetness.
Right, it certainly does.
This is one of the few liquors that we've ever had where I go, you know what? It's just a little too sweet. Like,
right.
Like, this is very...
It's fascinating because, again, we've never had a tequila that I would describe as sweet. Tequilas are always more savory, more...
So the one drip of water is enough. The 2 drips of water
is too much.
And it's too much. It waters it down. It's so interesting.
I'm really intrigued by this.
This is one of those funny spirits that you end up with on your shelf that you go, it's just, look how long we're talking about it.
Right.
And all the different things we're saying about it. It's incredibly interesting. I don't know. I can't even describe how bizarre this is.
It's just so different from any tequila I've ever tasted before. And I've tasted quite a few different tequilas.
This would probably go well with dessert. With like cheesecake or like something creamy and smooth kind of thing like that doesn't just rely on sweetness. I think this would,
a creme brulee maybe.
Yeah, something along those lines I think would go well with. It's interesting. I kind of want a little more, but I'm not sure about it.
By the way, just want to mention this one thing. You were talking about pairing of sweets. This is totally random, but Girl Scout cookie thin mints and Plantation Stiggins pineapple rum. Oh my God. A match made in heaven.
Oh, no.
just take it. Trust me on this one. You must try it if you have some of that Stiggins fancy pineapple at home. Oh, my God. With a Girl Scout cookie thin mint, life changes. It's a wonderful thing.
I haven't bought any Girl Scout cookies this year.
How did you hold out?
I haven't run in any Girl Scouts, to be honest with you.
Ah, okay.
So it's not entirely my fault because
Not for nothing, but you can order them online.
Those they used to be called Samoas. What are they called now?
Oh, I don't know. Do they even still have the Samoas?
Oh, those are. Man, I can wreck a box of those.
Let me talk to you about the lemonades, or I think that I call them lemonades, but I think they're lemon something.
Yeah,
they're this larger lemon cookie with the icing on the bottom. Oh dear God! It's like it's like somebody made a really good. What do you call that? A lemon squares.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's wonderful. 10 Whiskers is one of the 25 largest breweries in Minnesota. They've had a very strong following for their infused beers, which can actually be found on liquor store shelves at restaurants and in a tap room in downtown St. Paul. The 10 Whiskers Brewery is closing. Minnesota's craft beer scene has actually lost a handful of breweries over the years, but the recent announcement that 10 Whiskers is closing really caused a raising of eyebrows. They say that a lot of people getting in, this is from the owner of 10 Whiskers, Jeff Moriarty, he says a lot of people getting into craft brewing think that it's easy money. I feel like a bubble is coming, he said, that a reckoning is going to happen. And we talked about how there are supply chain issues and costs are going up everywhere. More breweries, he says, are fighting for a smaller piece of the pie, but it's not the only problem. Costs are rising for all kinds of materials. Moriarty said his canning costs spiked 127% last year.
Ouch.
Over a span of 12 months. That adds $9 to the cost of producing a case of beer. COVID restrictions and waves of the virus, of course, we know wiped out or reduced revenue from tap rooms and restaurant sales, which are much more profitable than actual can and bottle sales at retail. And meanwhile, a lot of workers are still at home, they say, in downtown St. Paul. And just a few blocks away from there, Stack Deck Brewing closed in October. The Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild is lobbying the state capitol to allow breweries to sell six-packs directly to their customers, which is still a thing there.
Yeah, we just got over that.
That really helped here in Texas. But yeah, he says expect price hikes as brewers deal with added expenses. I think the consumer somewhat knows that, but I don't know if they're fully grasping that pints are going to be a little bit pricier. What do you think? Is there a reckoning?
I'll tell you.
Is there a reckoning coming for craft beer?
I think what's happening is a changing of the model. Mm-hmm. So when craft beer started to explode and craft beer breweries started to explode, everyone's initial goal was, come on in, do a tour, we'll give you tasters, and then you go out to your local store and you buy our stuff.
And now it's like, get you into our tap room.
That was because the tap room could only do such limited things like that.
Correct.
There was a huge limit on how much you could even do, and then your only real hope of getting your beer out there was to have distribution and having it start, local and then go regional and those kind of things. And that model has changed tremendously. We've talked about this, the fact that a lot of
changed here in Texas. It hasn't changed everywhere.
Right. Well, so we definitely got a big boost when it came to the fact that the laws were changed so they could sell their own beer, which I think, I'm sorry, but if you're a brewery and you have a tap room and you have an area where you can hang out at the brewery and do stuff, that's a place you should be able to sell your own beer. And I don't know why laws.
Well, I can tell you.
Other than cutting out the middleman.
That's exactly what it is. It's about the distributors and how much clout those guys had at government and
it's nefarious, is what that's a terrible thing.
I agree.
And them having a vice on it and saying, well, no, sorry, I know you make this. And you have this space,
but you can't sell
and you
any
want
of
people
it.
to come in, but you can't sell it without me being in the middle of it. That's so. I'm glad we got over that to a large degree.
When my wife and I were at True Anomaly this week, it was just awesome to look around. As the evening went on, the place filled up. No, it's not a huge place,
right?
But that tap room filled up, and everybody was enjoying great beer. And some of them were participating in the trivia thing and eating the tacos. But it was just this really cool communal sense, I'll just say this, of neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because these were, I think, primarily people from not even just our city, but from that area of town. It was as local as it got.
This is my whole point. The model has now changed to where now I don't think breweries, like, I know that they work on having their beer in the local stores and things like that, but the truth is there are some breweries that I don't think do a whole lot of that or care as much about it as long as they can have that community tap room. And it's becoming kind of an older school thing where this is where people go gather now, and you go hang out at the brewery. The brewery has a place where your kids can run around and play. They have a big yard where you can go out and smoke a cigar. They have TVs if you want to watch the game. They have, I mean, it's become a fun place to be.
Right.
And hang out. You can bring your dog. You know,
right. There was a number of dogs there.
Outdoor areas. You can bring your dogs, things like that. And that whole model has changed hugely. So COVID jacked up a lot of that because then all of a sudden, especially the startup ones that didn't have a lot of distribution, didn't have a lot of stuff. Like here in town, we have some breweries like Walking Stick and a few others that literally they don't. As far as I know, I don't know how much distribution they even have. I've only seen Walking Stick at the brewery.
Right. I don't think I've seen it in any stores.
Right. So, like, their tap room is their life, you know? And if you have a startup brewery that's like that and all of a sudden COVID comes along and everything shuts down, you now have nothing.
Right. You have no sales.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the bars where you might have had it on tap in your neighborhood are shut down.
Yeah, they're not buying kegs.
And your whole tap room is shut down.
Yeah.
That's why it did my heart such good. It was the first. You and I think, went out to Eighth Wonder a few months ago.
Yeah, just a couple months ago.
But other than that, this is the first time I've been just out in the evening to a tap room and really gotten to look around and see the people are coming back.
Yeah.
That the sales are there. And I'll just say this. We've had True Anomalies beers here in the studio. I've had them at home. There's nothing quite like that Rocket Man Citra.
It's great.
Pale Ale out of the tap.
One
it's
of the things
wonderful.
that I look forward to when I go to True Anomaly is their Belgian style beers.
Oh, they have some great ones
They
too.
always have them, and they always have a few varieties, and they always have them on tap. And I love going to that brewery because I know that they'll have other beers I like. Like, I like Scout. I think Scout's one of the best Mexican lagers in existence. But, man, I'm reaching for those Belgian-style beers that they have.
I love it. I love it. All right, my friends, we have got to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with drinking news. And I'm also going to tell you about the La Flor Dominicana, the Andalusian Bull, that you can only get if you are NFT savvy. So that's something that we're going to...
Don't know what NFT is.
Yeah, exactly. When we come back.
Samoas are now Caramel Delights.
Samoas are now what?
Caramel Delights.
Caramel Delights.
That's from WikiBrand. I knew there was another.
Welcome back. Sweet baby Jesus. It is Smoking and Toasting, the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Sweet baby Jesus is twirling around on Mr. Twirligig. That's the beer named Sweet Baby Jesus from DuClaw. So we'll be getting to that in a moment. But first, anything... I saw you checking the comments. Anything you wanted to pass on?
Well, apparently in the Lansing, Michigan area, there's still Samoas. Different conferences have different names for the same cookies, apparently.
So we're talking about the Girl Scout cookies that were called Samoas, at least in some areas, are now called Caramel Delights. Is that right?
Yes.
So I wonder how the people of Samoa feel about the fact that their country name has been usurped for Caramel Delights.
Caramel Delights.
I don't know. I liked them when they were Samoas, but that's just me. I'll find
PC culture has gotten a little.
I'll find other things to be more upset about. And speaking of that, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for the most popular segment of the program. It's a little something we like to call Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said, I
had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
Now that sounded like Rowdy.
That was Rowdy. The one and only Rowdy Yates, ladies and gentlemen, adding his dulcet tones to the Drinking News theme song. A quick reminder that Drinking News, our most popular segment of the program, is not necessarily always stories about drinking, although sometimes they are.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah, but they are always stories that are probably best enjoyed if you've been.
Sometimes
drinking.
the stories are actually about drinking monkeys, and that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's monkeys that drink. Yeah,
that's
that was
situationally just
That was
hilarious.
last week's story. Drunken monkeys. Just drunken. There's something about drunken monkeys. I think that's what I will call a bar if I ever opened it.
The Drunken Monkey.
The drunken monkey. I just like the name. I like the image that it conjures up. Well, far be it from us here at Drinking News to laugh at the prospect of someone meeting their life's end. So, we will try very hard to keep the snickers and guffaws to a minimum during today's Drinking News story, and we'll ask your forgiveness just in case we don't quite make it. Now, the truth is, we're all going to shed this mortal coil at some point. A recent article on the website Grunge asked scientists about what the very worst ways to die would be, and their answers included radiation, fire, and being buried alive, which that one scares the crap out of me.
That's awful.
Yeah, that's that. But even worse than being buried alive would be if in the process of this particular way to die, there was a lot of feces involved. Pretty much seems like that's something that most people could
Buried
avoid.
alive
Could avoid.
in poo.
Yeah. But this unfortunately brings us to this week's story for Drinking News. A Florida man whose job it was to direct the traffic of incoming and outgoing dump trucks, tractors, and bulldozers was killed when he failed to do his job last month at the North Central Landfill in Polk County, Florida.
He failed to do his job?
That's right. It seems the man had to answer nature's call. So he left the landfill vehicles to fend for themselves while he went to do a number 2 in one of the landfill's porta potties. What could possibly go wrong? As it turns out, things went very wrong for the Florida man. I'll say this for sure. When my time comes, I hope I just pass peacefully in my sleep and not sitting on the porcelain throne. And certainly not sitting on the not at all porcelain throne.
The
of a
ABS
porta
plastic
potty. Yeah.
porta potty.
But that's where this Florida man was when things began to get confusing for the drivers of the vehicles in the landfill. Without anyone to guide him, the driver of a huge bulldozer didn't see the occupied porta potty because
Hold on. I want to back up, and when we talk about huge bulldozers,
Yeah.
we're talking about bulldozers where the tire is substantially taller than the porta potty.
Exactly. And
Yes.
this particular bulldozer, the driver didn't see the occupied porta potty because the front blade of his vehicle was elevated somewhat off of the ground and was blocking his forward view. So he didn't have anyone directing him, and as a result, he not only hit the porta-john and knocked it over, which would be bad enough for its occupant, but he actually drove over it, crushing it
jeez.
and everything inside, including the contents of the holding tank and the Florida man who was seated inside. Now, this is a very sad story, and I will admit I feel almost as bad for the mortician whose job it was to prepare the body for burial afterwards as I do the Florida man inside. But I think it brings us to some important porta potty safety tips.
That is a crappy way to die.
Yeah. So it brings us to some important porta potty safety tips that we should, as a public service, now pass along from Drinking News. Number 1, when it's your job to make sure that bulldozers don't drive over porta potties, be sure to designate somebody to do that job for you before you take a magazine or a newspaper into the porta-john for a little you time. Cannot stress this enough. Number 2, whenever possible, try to do your more involved bathroom business at home and just use the porta potties to take a quick leak so you'll be out of there before the bulldozers come. And if you're seated on the throne and you hear that big engine approaching, for God's sake, finish your business as fast as you can. It's important. Number 3, and this is perhaps not life and death, but a good rule to remember. Never, and I mean never, use the porta potty at a chili cook-off. I'm just telling you. Trust me on this one. You may not die, but you might wish that you had. Because believe me, you can hold it. You will thank me later. And finally, if your friends are the type who might think it's funny to wait until you go into the Porta John and then try their hand at tipping it over with you inside, you seriously need new friends. Yes, Tommy Jernigan, I'm talking to you. There's a reason why I don't return your text messages anymore, you little prick. So, while the death of the Florida Porta Potty Man is tragic and sad, we can all learn from this incident and practice porta potty safety whenever possible. And I've also, out of consideration for this man and any others like him, have vowed to never again enter a porta potty, notice the odor, and say, wow, smells like something died in here. It's the least I can do. Reporting from the North Central Landfill in Polk County, Florida, my name is Cruze, and that is your
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
So I will say that's our first drinking news that involved an actual death. So cheers, y'all. So I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to make death funny, you know?
Yeah, well,
But porta potties are funny.
just so you know, if I die in a way that's actually hilarious,
Yeah?
please laugh.
Okay, I will.
Make it worth it.
Yeah. I don't want to have a funeral. I just want people to have a big party when I go and come and, just drink and smoke and celebrate and
You heard it, folks.
have a good time.
Nobody can hold it against me when I party. Cruze is gone. It's party.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not how it's going to work.
The Cruze is Gone party would be a fun party.
Yeah, well, I mean, I assume.
Yeah.
Let's dip into the macabre here for a moment.
Okay.
I assume.
We already did with the tumbling over and smushing of the porta potty with a man inside, but yes.
If you were to leave us, Cruze, it would be quite the drunken fest, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And I will just say this. If and when I do shed this mortal coil, if it is before you, my friend, I am bequeathing you right here and now the contents of whatever's in my humidors.
You heard this.
Yeah, I've said it right here on Smoking and Toasting. Give Adam a couple, just, make sure he's taken care of. But yeah, I can trust you to
I
do
believe
that.
we would open it up and enjoy the party.
I think you should.
You know what?
should.
I'm going to go ahead and say same this way.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So for my humidor's pretty beat up right now.
It doesn't matter how beat up it is. It matters what's inside it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. The inside's beat.
good.
It actually looks real pretty, but the inside's beat up because I've been
all right.
smoking a bunch of cigars.
Well, that's the way it goes.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
sweet baby Jesus?
Please do. And please open, sweet baby Jesus. That is a sound.
Sweet baby Jesus, a chocolate peanut butter porter from DuClaw Brewing Company.
And we'll point out we've had DuClaw's beers on the show
Oh,
before.
man, have we.
And they have certainly been wonderful. So
We had one of the early
I have
ones we
high-
had was their Hell on Wood, which was just unbelievable.
I have high expectations for this, to be honest with you. A peanut butter porter sounds like a great idea to begin with. DuClaw is awesome. And then it's called Sweet Baby Jesus. So you can't just put out a mediocre beer and name it Sweet Baby Jesus. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like
It's
you have
gotta
elevated.
Be, you
have
got to be at
elevated-
least this good.
Yeah, you have elevated the expectations just a bit here. So somebody's going to have to come through. All right.
Sweet baby, while you're tasting this, I'll go ahead and see what it says on the can. DuClaw
Okay.
Brewing Company, Baltimore, Maryland. Really just a classic porter with heavenly aromas
I just stuck my nose in it. I was trying
and,
to.
and flavors
so
of
hard to
roasted
get.
drink much.
Yeah.
Flavors of roasted malt chocolate and rich peanut butter with a smooth, dry finish. One sip and you will exclaim the name.
Sweet baby Jesus.
My goodness.
I am really. So, peanut butter porter with roasted coffee beans.
Oh, man. It smells so good. Like the nose on this.
You ever go to roast peanuts and you get some of them just a little too toasty?
I have never roasted my own peanuts.
So let me tell you a great thing to do. Buy a bag of the peanuts still in the shell, like they serve at baseball games, and just take them out, leave them in the shell, put them on a cookie tray, put them in your oven on broil. I don't know, 10 minutes. Not more than that.
That's all you got to do, huh?
Yeah, take them out, let them cool, and then shell them and eat them. You will get the most deeply roasted peanut flavor, and that is what I'm getting out of this. Just
Nice.
wonderful. A few of them will be roasted a little too much, but that's okay.
I've roasted pumpkin seeds before. That's really
that's
good.
a really
that's
good thing to do.
Nice.
Yeah. What do you think of this Sweet Baby Jesus?
This is less sweet than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you get a peanut butter beer, they tend to sweeten it a lot, and I love that this is not. This is dry and bitter like a coffee, with a peanut butter flavor as well, and it really blends nicely. So I think we're just winning on beer today.
Did you read this already? A classic porter with heavenly aroma?
I did.
Yeah, I thought you did. I was waiting for you to read this other part where it says, according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's very original.
I feel like I've read that before.
Yeah.
I feel like they're plagiarizing.
Chocolate peanut butter porter. This is it's only a 6.2%, but then generally speaking, though, Ian, porters are not huge ABVs, correct?
Porters in style are generally one notch below a stout.
Right.
That's where they live
In terms of ABV.
in terms of ABV. But we gray lines all the time nowadays. So you can have stouts like Guinness at 4.5%, or you can have porters that are topping 12 and 13% because you've barrel aged them and stuff like that. So there's just a lot of gray lines, but generally speaking, stouts were bigger, porters were the little brother to the stout.
I just saw actually when I bought this. Actually, I saw a bomber bottle of the 512 double pecan porter. Which
have you had that?
I didn't get. Yeah, we've had it on the show.
It's like 7 kinds of good.
Which is the only reason that I didn't buy it and bring it in, is that we've already had it. But maybe we should just try it again.
Don't let that stop you.
Maybe we should just try it again.
Okay,
because that is all kinds of
double
good.
pecan stout is unbelievable, and it's an expensive bottle. And holy crap, is it worth every penny?
It most certainly is. That's good stuff. But I can't take anything away from the Sweet Baby Jesus out of Baltimore, Maryland. What do you think? What do you think as porters go?
I want an entire pint of this.
Yeah.
To just sit and be contemplative upon.
Contemplating is important.
Yes.
I just poured more.
It can also lead to pontificating.
Which is best done when you've got that long tip pipe of yours.
Yeah.
And
it
you're
really
turning that around.
The church warden.
The church warden, yes.
Yeah, the pontificous nature of said beer and pipe would be.
I'd just like to point out that there is a freaking leaf blower going on in the window
I'm
below.
so trying not to laugh.
I know. It's just, I'm telling you, this happens to me. I don't know what it is. I'm like
You
a
and the
leaf
leaf
blower
blower.
magnet. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
I mean, this is a reasonably well soundproofed studio. I mean, it's not perfect, but you got some guy out there going right under the window. You're going to hear it. So,
Well, yeah, you're like 3 floors up, and then 3 walls with egg crate style soundproofing all the way around it,
it's like, come on.
and then just
Seriously?
outside the window.
Right. It's like I'm telling you, they do it on purpose. It's a
Hey,
conspiracy.
at your funeral, I'm wearing one of those.
Oh, totally. You should totally leaf blow
leaf
the funeral.
blowers.
You totally should.
Every conversation I see someone having, I'm just going to walk behind them.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the afterlife is, but I know I'll be like, Ian, God damn it.
You'd be haunting me.
Wherever I am, that's what I'll be saying. I love me some Sweet Baby Jesus.
Spirits or not, since we're talking about the macabre.
Hallelujah.
Spirits or not, if you haunt me, that's fine. I have never once in my life been bitten by a ghost. So whether they exist or not, I am not actually afraid of them.
Well, I don't think I would want to bite you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying. A lot of people are afraid of ghosts. In general, like, what did the ghost do? Well, it was just there and it was spooky.
And it went, ooh.
So?
It was just there and it was spooky.
So?
I like that.
What's to be afraid of that?
That's kind of fun. The most afraid I've ever been, I was in my 20s and I was working for a radio station, San Antonio, Texas, and the company had bought a new AM station, and for some reason the transmitter had to be tended. They hadn't been able to put the remote control in yet so they could take readings, and so the readings had to be taken like once every 3 hours. So they gave me an extra money to go out to this remote transmitter site and basically every 3 hours write the information down. Well, I thought, no problem. I took an alarm clock, right? I would sleep. The alarm clock would go off. I'd get up, take the readings. I'd sleep again.
Go back to bed,
The thing is, I went out there at like 3 in the morning, and the transmitter site was across the street from a convent. And when I went out there at 3 in the morning, it was super foggy. And it was it was like a scene from a movie. There was this fog in this dimly lit convent, and I'm not kidding.
And then you hear the beginning of Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath.
That's what I'm thinking of in my brain, right? But what I did hear was an actual wolf howl, and it was pretty scary. Of course, I was in my 20s, so. But yeah, I've never actually met a ghost.
I haven't either.
Yeah, so.
I know a lot of people who say they've met ghosts, and we're very afraid. But again, not a one of them has ever been bitten by a ghost either. So I'm like, what's to be afraid of? Like, ooh, spooky. Okay, dude, gotcha. Haunt all you want. I'm gonna drink this beer.
Sweet baby Jesus. More than sweet baby Jesus, and maybe you won't have the.
I like to think of myself as a pragmatist.
I like to think of you that way as well. And if I do become a ghost, I won't bite you. You have a deal. We'll take a break. We'll be back to wrap up the show. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 200 and what did I say, 79?
What are we even talking about anymore?
Holy moly, we're halfway to 300.
At least.
Sweet baby Jesus. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 200 and whatever we are.
Gobbledygook.
Welcome back. It is nice to be here with you guys.
This will be known as the haunted episode.
Yeah, that's right. The episode about death. The Smoking and Toasting episode about death. It'll be our second lowest listened to episode ever after the one that never got posted from our old producer.
In later news, I left my house. There's a Walgreens just a few blocks from my house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say my neighborhood association is light on the laws.
Okay, yeah. They're pretty easygoing.
Judging by the semi-permanent garage sales that happen a few houses down from mine that literally happen 3 days a week, every single week since like 3 years now. So I go around the corner and I have to slow down because there is a chicken crossing the road, and I just rolled down my window and started yelling, "Why? Why?" And these
Why
poor people standing outside their house are looking at me like I was a lunatic. But I thought it was funny.
That was a moment of great humor. I appreciate it.
Not get it.
I appreciate it. I would love to have actually first seen you leaning out the window of your truck yelling "Why?" and then trying to figure out what's he doing, and then seeing the chicken crossing the road. And that would have been a great comedic moment.
Why?
That would have been very, very good. I wanted to mention, I went back and just poured the rest of this Citrus Rescue IPA from New Belgium into my cup here because I enjoyed it so much. And you can polish off the Sweet Baby Jesus if you'd like. But New Belgium.
That's when we know our producer's into the show. When I pour the rest of the beer, he goes, "Oh man."
New Belgium is from Fort Collins, Colorado.
Yeah.
And there is a distillery in Fort Collins that is, let's just say life has changed a little bit for them. We're talking about the NoCo Distillery in Fort Collins, Colorado. They are a small craft distillery. They make a bourbon called Bourbon 2, as in Roman numeral 2.
Okay.
And the reason life has changed for them is because on a recent episode of Star Trek Picard on the Paramount Plus network, without going into too much detail, the cast of this show winds up going back in time to 2024, and they're trying to right a wrong in the timeline. Basically, was why they're there. And in the process of this,
you have to fix an anomaly.
That's exactly what they have to do. They have to fix a true anomaly. In the process of this, one of them goes into a bar, and briefly for a moment, a bottle of the NoCo Bourbon 2 is visible in the show, which has resulted in what the distillers have described as a miniature Star Trek convention, which now takes place in their parking lot every day. As Trekkies are flocking to NoCo Distillery in Fort Collins, Colorado, like it's some kind of a pilgrimage. to try the whiskey that was featured for a couple of seconds.
You know, you can
on
only
Star
do
Trek
Area
Picard.
51 so many times.
That's right. That's right. Exactly right. You got to go do something else. So anyway, cheers to you, Noko, and I hope you sell
absolutely,
lots
man.
of bourbon. You know,
Absolutely.
I hope you do. So so this has been a very interesting show. It's been. It went off the rails somewhere in that last segment, but that's okay because it's almost over.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't mind that at all. So I want to just say it's fun doing a show sometimes with just you and me. We haven't done one in a while, and it was a blast today. Now, still working on our guests for next week's show. I'm pretty sure we're going to have somebody, but I do know what's happening 2 weeks from today, and that is 2 weeks from today is, in fact, Cinco de Mayo. And our favorite tequila expert in the world, Liliana Rodriguez, will be here. She prefers to be called the tequila aficionado, but we ignore that and call her our
she's
tequila
definitely
expert.
the tequila expert.
Yeah, I mean, she knows more about tequila than just about anything. She sent me a very interesting story, which I didn't think was really quite right for Drinking News, but I'll pass that on to you next week about apparently some kid who took a bottle of tequila to his kindergarten class and got some of his classmates drunk. See, so when it came to Drinking News, I passed on that to go for the guy dying in the porta
Bruce
potty.
Stark says there was a duck standing next to the road, and the chicken came up and said, "Don't cross the road. You'll never hear the end of it."
That's good. That's good. So anyway, man, thanks for hanging through the show. This beer is really good. I'm going to go out and buy this on my way home. Citrus Rescue from New Belgium and Imperfect Foods. Fantastic. And you're a fan of the Sweet Baby Jesus, I take it.
Sweet baby Jesus.
Yeah, I like it. We've had everything today has been interesting, including this very interesting tequila.
I'm still divided on that one.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, but I'm with you. A drop of water made it.
Drop of water,
made
I
it
think.
better.
I think I liked it better with a drop of water. 2 drops of water, not so much, but a drop was great.
Liliana, if you're with us, I'm going to bring this in when you're here because I just want your take on this.
Should I bring that 808 as well?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
That's
By the way, speaking of the 808, and this is how we'll wrap up the show. Or the 818? Is it 808 or 818?
808, right?
818.
818.
So
808 is actually, the drum kit, sorry.
So I'm going to, right, exactly. That's that low beat that goes in your speakers.
That's like the sound of Run DMC.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That's exactly right. So I would like to issue, on behalf of all of us here at the show, an apology to our listeners. And we don't do this very often, even though we screw up all the time. We very seldom apologize for it. But in this case, I would like to issue an apology because it was not until after we'd had the 818 tequila on the show, and a number of us here on the show really liked it, that I was told later, after the show had wrapped, several days later, that the 818 tequila is actually Kendall Jenner's tequila. So I feel like we need to apologize because, and only because the Jenners are so freaking overexposed. I'm so done with it. Like, please, just enough. I would not have purchased that and brought it to the show if I realized that. But
so having a celebrity name on it actually does somewhat the opposite.
For me in this case, I mean, just because of the overexposure, I just don't want to hear about him anymore. That has nothing to do with anything except too much.
Oh, so just as a last addendum,
Mm-hmm.
a PSS, postscript.
Is that a thing, by the way? Do you keep adding S's to
or
the
is it
PS?
the P's that you keep adding? PPS,
No, I think it's the
PSS,
S's.
right? Yeah.
PSS, yeah.
PSS, postscript. The other day I went to a buddy's house and he had a bottle of the proper 12.
Oh, this is the Conor McGregor. So you got to try it for real.
I tried it for real.
And?
God, it's freaking terrible.
So that's what we've continued to
hear. It's so not good. It was one of those moments, when you try something, you see something that's just so wrong. I tried it, and it took me a minute to parse it all out, and then I couldn't stop saying what was wrong, all the different things I kept seeing wrong with it or tasting wrong with it.
It was a Montucky cold snack moment.
I just couldn't, and there's this taste, and what's going on here? Why does it have that? Oh, it just went on, and I couldn't stop myself. I was like, I'm sorry to talk about your whiskey like that. Can I have Jameson instead? And he goes, yes. And he grabs his decanter, he pours Jameson. I was like, it's so much better.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
much.
Exactly. Jameson's is good stuff. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being a part of the program this week. Liliana, as we mentioned, is going to be with us. And I still haven't decided, I don't know, I don't think we're going to be able to do this live. But coming up in May, we're going to be attending the Steak and Bottle Share with our good friend Manny.
That's going to be so fun.
From
Manny from El Cabano.
El Cabano, yeah.
Yes.
And so I haven't figured out yet if we're going to do a segment there, if we're going to try to record a show there. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to do something coming up.
Listen,
the Steak and
if
Bottle
you're
Share
in
with Manny
Houston
El Cabano
and you're headed
Lopez.
down to Galveston and you've got a few extra minutes on your hand, you'll come up to an exit, and the road is called 518, okay? It's in Dixon, I think. I can't remember. There's a bunch of little towns, Texas City, Dixon, all that. It's all like right there. But the road is called 518. Exit there if you're heading south. Exit there and take a left. And in about 3 minutes, you'll see El Cabano on the left-hand side. Pull in, have a cigar. Freaking awesome place.
And if you want to learn about cigars, engage Manny. the
Man,
owner.
that guy is
That
awesome.
guy knows what he's talking about. So we look forward to having him on the show and enjoying some Steak and Bottle Share with him,
yeah.
as well as some great cigars. So thank you again, my friends, for being here and being a part of this program called Smokin' and Toastin'. For number 279, that means we are officially halfway to 300. Have a great week, my friend, and cheers, y'all.
Woo, that's a wrap.